If you keep choosing unavailable men, ambivalent, chaotic, inconsistent men, that's not because you have daddy issues. It's because you had a dad with issues. And as a result, the first man who was supposed to love you and teach you what loving and being in a relationship with a man was supposed to be really messed it up because he taught you all sorts of random stuff, which we will discuss today. If you're a woman who, like myself, is unfortunately attracted to men, you may think that all these men that broke your heart are just a unique experience, something that just only happens to you because somehow something is wrong with you. Well, I'm here to tell you that your first heartbreak is not this guy that you're crying over now, or the one before, or even the first guy you remember. The first man who broke your heart was your father, and especially if that father was a narcissistic type of person, which sort of feels like a giant, entitled, and emotionally volatile toddler in the body and authority of a father, which means that your heart was just subjected to whatever that toddler felt like doing. So he really played you, and he played you so bad that now you struggle. And no, we're not like in the business of thinking, oh, it's their fault and now what? But we have to say things for what they are. But we need to trace things, how they were, from where they were created, so that we can heal them. So in this video, I'm going to break all of that down for you. But I want you to know that the intention of this video is not for you to find an excuse for how difficult your life has been, but to understand why it has been this way, and then move out of this situation. Because it's enough, right? So this man, if this describes your father, he entangled you in a trauma bond and forced you to earn his unavailable and never able to secure love, priming you to interpret ambiguity for interest, which now keeps you stuck in loops of obsession over equally unavailable and ambivalent men who kind of almost somehow kind of love you, but never quite. Never enough, or never really. Your blueprint to love and what it's like to be loved by a man is messed up because the first man that was supposed to love you fully, not because of how you look or what you achieve or what you provide in his life, but because, let's face it, eventually when we get in relationships, that plays part into how we're chosen. Inevitably. But this man was supposed to do it unconditionally, but he didn't. So now you enter the dating world, you have relationships starved for feeling this unconditional regard and love, but also you are very, very attracted to men that are just like him. And I don't mean appearance. I mean men who don't love you for who you are, but possibly only stick around because of what you do for them or how they're benefiting by your presence. And this, after all, is a very key characteristic of how patriarchy socializes little boys when they turn into men, to take from women indefinitely. So you fit that role pretty easily. You're already trained to do that. You already know how to do that. And you already think this is normal, that you have to constantly give reasons to people so that they can be with you, they can love you, and they can think that you're worthy of their precious love. And you find precious love, you make someone's not love be the most precious thing that you can attain. But that love it's not even a loving love. Regardless, you want the prize. So that means that if you find a man who isn't like that, who isn't so deeply messed up with patriarchy and wanting to just use you and actually knows how to love, then you won't even be attracted to them. You know why? Because what attracts you is ambivalence, is inconsistency, is hot and cold, is drama, is chaos, is that sense that, oh, this person is so self-centered. I have to somehow make him see me. I have to perform in such a way where I get him out of his self-centeredness and he sees me, and then he makes me the center of his world. And you also may as a lot of us, have confused being desired as a body to being loved as the to being loved as the human that you are. So you will try to get their attention in all sorts of feminine ways. But this is literally you and us falling into the trap of objectifying ourselves and changing how lovable we perceive ourselves to be based on how we look. Right, the core definition of just objectifying ourselves. And this isn't random. This is part of the conditioning, and this is part of that relationship. And so, this experience of being raised by a narcissistic father is so devastating for both little boys and little girls, right? But the focus here and in my work is women. So let's just move on into the specifics of the experience so that we can name all of these things that were unwitnessed and not even given names, so that you can begin the path of healing. So narcissistic fathers, what do? Their first trick is that they make love conditional. They condition you to this breadcrumbing experience that their love is. It's never just what you see. It keeps changing. So one day they're nice to you, the next they change their mind. One day they say, "Oh, this is nice. I love that you did this." The next day, "Why on earth did you do that?" And then they'll just change how they regard you depending on how they feel, but you don't know that. You're thinking it's depending on how you look or what you did or what you said. So you're only truly fully praised, even if it's for a moment, when you're impressive, you're beautiful, you've done something great, you're obedient, right? So the moment you don't do any of that, this father will just withdraw, he'll criticize you and shame you. So it's really volatile, and you start to think that you have to constantly change how you are and how you operate to make sure that someone loves you. So you take it upon yourself to make yourself lovable. And you learn that from so early on. And now you do the same, right? You do the same with these men. You're like, maybe if I do more of this, if I should say that, if I didn't say the other, there's a trigger when you get attracted to a man who resembles that dynamic, that all of you is trying to impress them, right? You're giving out performance for this man, hoping that he stays on a good view of who you are, because you don't know how to be regarded unconditionally, and you've never been when you had to be, especially from the eyes of a man who sees you as a human. Now, the other thing that they do is they treat you as an extension of themselves. So they live vicariously through you, but also they sort of like push you out in the world as a means to them getting validation of who they are, which means that they will want to control your life. They want you to become this thing, a doctor, or marry that man, do this thing, have these many kids, or have these many kids, or they just want you to live the life that they decided for you, as if you're just a project that they created, because they want to feel they're so connected with thinking that whatever you do represents them, and they don't see you as your own person, right? So you're an extension of themselves, which means you have to perform. You're like a little Muppet. They're like, you do this, you do that, control you so that you are perfect. It's like a little toy. Now, the other thing that narcissistic parents do, and especially narcissistic fathers, are not teaching you ever what it's like to have intimacy and safe intimacy with a man. And I'm talking about emotional intimacy here. Because they're not really emotionally able to create that intimacy with you. So what do they teach you is that when you open up to them, they'll mock you. They'll say, "Why are you crying like a little girl? You should be strong." They'll minimize whatever is happening to you. And then if you were to ever share things with them, they will use them against you. They're not a safe place. They're not a safe space, emotional space for you. And you learn that so early on. And so, of course, now you're dating all these men who are equally unsafe spaces. And what you do is just keep yourself more and more hidden so that they don't do the same thing to you. The relational injury of being treated in that way, in the space of emotional intimacy, is brutal. And it doesn't just go away. right? It needs so much good experience to come in and top it off for it to kind of feel like, oh, now I can share my feelings. Like, it's going to be the hardest thing for you to share your feelings. And the men that you're choosing are possibly making it even harder because they're proving you right. They do the same thing because you're choosing men that are similar to him, right? And also, many men are very similar to this because the nature of how we socialize little boys is to become narcissistic men. And I talk about this in other videos, but I should make more. Nonetheless, right, there's a lot of emotional unsafety. So everything that is happening in this emotional space is unsafe territory, which is the place where it hurts the most for all of us. The other thing that they do is, they try to triangulate you within their mess with your mother, and they're trying to tell you things about her, and they're trying to get you on their team, and they're trying to almost like put you in the space of that partner, which is something a lot of parents do. They parentify you in that manner, almost like making you the emotional partner. They share too much with you. They try to plot against your mother with you. They do all these things, but you're just a little girl. And you want to be loved by your dad. And you also love your mom. So this is a messy space to be, which, kind of makes you feel like you have to choose between them. And that's just so confusing for your internal experience. And also, how can you reject one of the parents? Because essentially you will be rejecting yourself. Now, the other thing that they, of course, do, these types of parents, narcissistic parents, and especially fathers, is they, of course, will shape your idea of what men are. If you ever noticed a woman who has had a really great history in relationships, and you ask her about her father, the chances that she will say that he was a monster are very slim. Very, very slim. The women who tend to engage with men that are not toxic and chaotic and volatile and abusive, they're not drawn to that as easily, are women who have had a father who has set a really high standard as to how you need to be treated by others. And you feel very valuable and worthy for who you are. So it's a lot different. That's not a rule, though. Many women will fall into the trap of being abused by a man because of how these types of men can be very, very abusive and manipulative. But what I'm saying is that our first experience of a man sets the tone of what men are going to be and what kind of men we're attracted to and what fears we develop around men, right? So the last one, it's going to be a little triggering, just letting you know, but narcissistic fathers may blur some emotional boundaries in some covert ways. So the way you draw attention as a woman may be made to feel uncomfortable because he objectifies you, right? He projects on you. He kind of looks at your body, always judging you, right? So you develop this difficult and challenging experience of being very uncomfortable around the gaze of men because it feels like you're being objectified. Again, you were never just looked at with unconditional regard. You're always looked at and be picked on or praised for things that eventually begin to feel very uncomfortable in our bodies. So essentially all of this, right, quite the experience, isn't it? Is coming down to something even deeper. Having a narcissistic father means that you're fundamentally rejected to the core of who you are. Because it's all conditional, it's all projected on, and it's all constantly criticized and scrutinized. There's no unconditional regard. Again, coming from his own background and you being a woman, the infiltration of how he views you as a woman is not clean, right? It's not outside of how he's been conditioned to look at women and to perceive women and to think of women. He wants to control you. He wants you to be less than him. He wants you to be obedient. He wants you to be small. He wants you to perform for his love. And all of these things make him feel worthy. So he tries to overpower you so that he feels more powerful. And so all of this experience leaves you feeling fundamentally rejected to the core of who you are. And that's serious because the way that you now define yourself is only through this devastating rejection. All of your life, you will possibly find rejection to be a theme, all stemming from the initial rejection, playing over and over and over again. So you will rarely choose men that choose you, but most likely always want to be chosen by men who don't. You think, maybe if I do this, if I do the other, if I try this, if I try harder, I will make him love me. Him. You don't have to do that. He's super in love with himself, the men that you choose. But the idea is I will make the unlovable, the man who doesn't love me somehow wake up to the fact that he loves me. So you have this notion that what exists underneath is love when there's not. And that's just what you're carrying from your childhood idea, that because he was your father, you kind of knew he loves you underneath all of that. And he's twisted a messed up way, he loved you. Even if that love looked nothing like love and felt nothing like love, and it was more like possession and control and abuse, but still, that is what carries through, right? So you have this underlying thing that you think that you are indeed going to access that love, right? And also, that's your understanding of what love is. Love is not something that you just take. It's turning someone's disinterest into interest by working hard, performing, and trying. So essentially, the men that you are choosing for your trajectory of your life, for the most part, are going to be reflecting back to you your own self-rejection, right? Because you've internalized that you're not good enough and you have to earn people's love. So you think it's these men rejecting you and finding you not good enough, but really, who would think that earning someone's love is something they need to do in order to access love? Who would entertain half-assed, barely interested, ambivalent, avoidant, distant, volatile men, unless those men felt precisely like home and also gave you exactly what you think you deserve? Breadcrumbs. And an opportunity to remake your lifetime's classic, How Your Father Broke Your Heart, into a sequel. It's going to be called But I Found One Just Like Him and Fixed It. Never in the history of everything has a man fixed what another man broke. Not because men are not good at fixing things. They are good at fixing things. But because the men we choose when we feel broken are replicas of the men that broke us in the first place. So obviously, the chances of them doing the exact same thing are pretty high, aren't they? So my advice with all of this, if you're a woman, is not going to be traditional. Obviously, I want you to set boundaries, all of these things. But it's a little bit more radical than that, what I want to say. I want you to make it into your life's mission to find dignity, pride, and connect with your rage. I want you to mobilize all of your rage into moving yourself from feeling unworthy and like you deserve the bare minimum by people who do not really care about you or love you in ways that feel loving, and turn them into dignity and pride for the self. I want you to go from the dwelling in the space of inferiority to pushing yourself into the space of superiority, not against others, but against this former self that you are going to outgrow. And this story that you have that you're nothing unless a man chooses you. I want you to remove yourself from a space where you're looking at men and you're thinking they are superior to you, and so their approval to you will move you from your inferiority to a superiority next to them. And I want you to climb that ladder yourself, using your rage as fuel. I want you to do inner child work every single day until every little part of you, every little girl in you and in your memory capsules of your brain that is heartbroken, waiting for your father to love you, is liberated and is no longer stuck in that. I want you to go and save all of them. I want you to heal and work on yourself until you feel like a woman who is standing in her power and not a little girl trying to make someone love her by impressing him. There's no audience to impress. There's nobody watching. I know your father made you think that you're constantly watched because he never allowed you to have space in your head. And it's almost like he instilled himself in your head. It's like this invisible man in your head. It's first our father, and then it's society, patriarchy, right? And we're like constantly self-editing and self-observing. How do I look? Will men like this? If I do this, if I do that, constantly. There's no audience. I want you to tell that to yourself all the time. There's no audience. There's no audience. You're living for you. Only you. The only one watching is you and your younger parts. And I want you to impress them, not to perform for them, to show up for them, to impress them, to become the woman you've always wanted to be. But not the woman who is lovable. Because honestly, that woman is possibly a very meek version of yourself. If you're lovable, it's possibly because you're patriarchy adjacent, right? You are patriarchy approved. You fit the mold for the perfect woman, and we all know what the perfect woman is like, right? She's meek, she's small, she's obedient, she controls herself, she's starving, possibly. She's not strong, she's this, she's skinny, she's all these things. She's all these labels. So she fits the perfect mold that is now in trend, of course. But she doesn't deviate from that. No. Who wants to be loved because they're perfect? That's just like the antithesis of feeling loved. If someone loves you because you're perfect, that should enrage you so much, because that means they only love the performance. So what happens when you stop performing? Who wants to be loved because they're perfect? I want you to learn how to love yourself, not because you're perfect, but because you genuinely fall in love with your crazy, your messy, your humanness, and the truth of your own heart. And that can happen only if you know yourself, and particularly starting from your younger self. Not this woman who self-edits constantly for the male gaze and for the approval of men who don't want her. Generally, the woman who is pursuing the approval and is centering her life around men because she wants that validation so much. So all of this can happen if you access that younger you. Because before this grown-ass man played with your psyche and tortured you around and had you chase his love as if it was the ultimate price, imagine you were chasing a love that wasn't even loving. That's how much of your dignity has been broken, right? When you were a kid, you were chasing someone's love that wasn't even loving. But before all of that, you were a curious, funny, and loving creature that had an open heart to life. You were life yourself. You are life yourself. You're a woman. So now you've turned into this defended, armored, fearful version of you that feels unworthy of also the bare minimum of this life, your love for your own self. It feels like you have to earn the love of your own self. If you manage to earn the love of someone else, and when you earn that love, then you will love yourself. It's never going to happen this way. So no more conditional love, no more performance-based love, and no more trying to reach standards of the society that you live in order to make you choosable. You choose yourself, whatever that looks like. You work on yourself for yourself, and you learn how to love yourself by rescuing all the parts of you that are left hanging in the past, waiting for your father's love. You have to do the healing work. You have to heal. You have to go to the past and rescue all of them. You have to heal so that you're not a child anymore, chasing your father's ghosts through the bodies of grown men. And it just never happens again. Like, you just stop being that woman forever. And so that you become a woman that chases nobody and is grounded in the gift of life that she holds, the liberties and the freedoms that we have, and engages fully with that life. Despite how many men contributed, continuing on your father's great work, into wrecking that for you. So take the lead. Nobody's coming to save you. You are the one you've been waiting for. And I know what you want to hear is, your man is out there waiting for you. One day you will find that love. I don't know. Maybe you will. I wish that your life brings you whatever it is that you desire. But we're not going to cling on hopes so that our life gets better. What we need to do is rely on ourselves, find our strength, and stop being in the position of a little girl waiting to be loved by a man who doesn't choose her. And I want you to love yourselves, I want you to love your inner parts so much, one by one, that eventually you may feel that this man, your father, never happened to you. That you completely erase that experience from your inner experience because you now have access to loving yourself, the authentic self that you are, without performing, without trying to do all that, without rejecting yourself, without reaching out, without centering others, just in a way that is just solid. You love yourself. And I kind of want to add on to this and just push it to the extremes and say, I want you to love yourself and your parts so much that people start calling you selfish. And you're like, oh, thank you. And self-centered. I want you to grow so proud into who you are that people are starting to say, who does she think she is? Just that's how far I want you to take it. Because why not? Why not? You're not loved by playing small. So why don't you give this a try? Why don't you give yourself a try to show up in this world as you, unapologetic? I want you to become the center of your own world, changing the entire orbit you've been put on since a little girl from your father, which has you chasing and centering men's approval your entire life in order to feel worthy. I'll see you soon.